Hello, my name is Sean Briscoe, and in this presentation I will discuss the main principles behind judging debate tournaments. There are 5 main principles that we should keep in mind as judges. We should be educators, we make our decisions independently, we practice non-intervention, there are multiple decisions going into who wins and who loses and who advances to the next phase of competition, and then we're identifying the team that occupies the most metaphorical space in the debate. Those first 4 principles are applicable to judging any speech and debate competition, whether it's extemporaneous speaking, original oratory, humorous interpretation of literature, you name it, it applies to all of them. The last one, occupying space, is specific to judging debate competitions. So if you judge outside of the St. Louis Urban Debate League or you judge events other than debate, those first 4 will be applicable to any activity that you end up judging. So let's look at each of these in turn. The first main principle of judging a debate is that your primary focus should be as that of an educator. You are not primarily tasked, or you are identifying a winner or a loser, or rank ordering the students. And the students might be really concerned about who wins and who loses. They might be really hyper-focused on who's going to get the trophy at the end of the tournament. But your job as the judge is actually to be an educator, to help the students benefit from participating in this competitive activity. Help them to learn, help them to grow, help them to understand how to analyze issues, help them to understand how to present their ideas effectively to other people. Those are the types of things that we want to focus on as judges at speech and debate competitions. We do not want to focus exclusively on the wins and losses, although that is certainly important for the integrity of the competition, but ultimately you want to help them grow. The nice byproduct of that is, if you focus on helping them learn about how to be better, then they're going to win more debates. They're going to do better in competition. The second sub-bullet that I put on here is that we want to be constructive rather than destructive in our feedback. Now that comment is primarily aimed at those individuals who participated in the activity in the past and are now transitioning to the role of judge. And that's primarily because as debaters at the highest level of competition, we tend to want immediate feedback that helps us to see what we did wrong so we can improve it. But the problem is, when we turn into the role of critic, many of the people that we're judging are still starting out and can get demoralized if they're only hearing what they did wrong. What we need to do as judges is 2 things. 1, let them know what they did well so that they can continue to do it well. But second, don't just tell them what they did incorrectly or what they could have done better. Help them to see how they could do it better. Phrase your feedback on the ballot in such a way that it helps them to see what they could have done differently so that they can improve upon it for the next tournament. By doing that, you will A, help them grow, and B, help them remain energized and excited about the activity. So be an educator. Second, as judges, we make our decisions independently of one another. We do not collaborate with other individuals, whether they be those people who are just watching the round. They might be a parent, a coach, a friend of someone who's competing. We don't discuss the decision with them. We don't get their opinion on a certain argument or who won the debate, who did the better job in presenting their material. We don't collaborate. Okay? Likewise, I know a lot of beginning judges who are concerned with making the right decision. They're stressed out about whether or not they're qualified to judge the activity. You are qualified to judge the activity. But they're stressed out about it, and they come to me and they say, well, should this argument win the debate? Should the team win through this argument? Well, the honest answer is I don't know. I was not present in that room. I wasn't listening to all of the arguments. I don't hear all of the context behind the discussion. And ultimately, those students were tasked to communicate effectively with you. So if they didn't convince you that it was a winning argument, then it probably was not a winning argument. If they did convince you that it was a winning argument, then it probably was. Okay? So you need to make the decision by yourself. This is even true when you've been assigned as one member of a panel. Many times when we get to elimination rounds in competition, we have 3, 5, 7 judges. You are all still tasked with making your decisions independently. And then, we add up all of the votes at the end of the round so that we have majority rules in effect to see who the winning team was. So even if there are other judges assigned in that room that you have been assigned, you're still making the decision independent of them. The students are communicating to each of you independently. Third, we practice non-intervention. The students are not tasked with debating your internal thoughts. They don't know what you're thinking. They don't know what your predispositions are, and so they're not tasked to debate your internal thoughts. They're tasked to debate their opponents, and you as the judge are evaluating their efforts relative to their opponents. I should also point out at this point that the students have not necessarily, or they are not necessarily arguing from their own personal beliefs. In most formats of debate, we have assigned the students a side in the debate. We are telling them what positions that they're going to defend, what positions they're going to advocate for, and those types of things. And so you should not penalize someone because you disagree with them. You should not penalize them because you find their perspective to be reprehensible. You don't know what they actually believe. They're participating in an activity which helps them to understand both sides of an issue so that they can understand more about the world. They learn more about themselves. They learn more about the issues that they care about, and so forth. I can think back to my senior year in high school where I was participated in policy debate, and the topic was health insurance and health care, public health care. And in one particular round, I was put into a position where my debate partner and I had to defend pro-choice. Our opponents who were on the affirmative were defending pro-life. And so we were placed in the position to defend the pro-choice side. The judge at the end of the round, who was visibly getting upset near the end of the debate, stood up, threw some papers on the desk, and as she stormed out the door, she yelled at my partner and I, "How could we be such horrible, murderous baby killers?" Well, my partner and I looked at each other and thought, you have no idea what we believe. You do not know if we were pro-life or if we were pro-choice. We were put into this debate, assigned a side, and we did our best to present that side, regardless of our own personal beliefs. Okay? The students that you are judging have been assigned a side, and they're going to defend that side to the best of their ability. So keep that in mind as you're evaluating the debate, that you do not have to be convinced that they are right. You should not hold it against them for the decisions, for the arguments that they are presenting, or hold them accountable because you think that their side of the debate is just wrong. Okay? You're evaluating their ability to present arguments in a coherent manner and to defend those arguments against their opponents, and also to attack their opponent's arguments. Okay? Whichever team does that more effectively is going to be the winning team. The fourth main principle of judging debates is that there are multiple decisions. Again, like I said earlier, many judges come in, and especially new judges, and are concerned because they don't want the fate of these students to be placed in their hands and their hands alone. Well, the reality is, debate's not that important, or winning and losing is not that important. That's not going to make or break a student's career, their life, even their success in a debate tournament, okay? And second, you're also an educator first and foremost. As a judge, you're an educator, so the wins and losses and those sorts of things are secondary to the process. But not only that, you are not the only one deciding whether or not these students advance or not. Tournaments are divided into two phases, preliminary rounds and elimination rounds. If we think about sports, football, baseball, that would be the regular season and the postseason. Okay? In preliminary rounds, there is typically only one judge assigned to the round, but there are 3, 4, 5, 6 preliminary rounds. All tournaments are different, but there are going to be multiple preliminary rounds. And just like in the National Football League, when the Broncos lost game 2 of the season, that doesn't mean that their season is over. Okay? They have other preliminary rounds, quote unquote, in which to prove their worth, in which to make a case that they deserve to be in the playoffs. And the same is true in debate tournaments. Over the course of 4 rounds, some teams will move into the elimination rounds after having 1 or possibly even 2 losses. So your single ballot is not going to make or break that team. Then once we move to the elimination round, just like in the playoffs, or at least in football in the National Football League, it does become a head-to-head. You have 1 round, 1 competition to decide whether or not you advance to the next level of competition. But what we do at debate tournaments in those elimination rounds is we place you on a panel with other judges. And so there will most likely be 3 total judges in the round. Sometimes there will actually be 5 or even 7, but most of the time there will be 3 judges. Whichever team wins 2 of those judges, or all 3 of those judges, it will be the one that advances to the next round of competition. Even if you're judging events in which you just rank order the competitors, it's still based on a cumulative point total assigned by all 3 judges or all 5 judges to determine who advances to the next round. So your ballot will not make or break these students. Your ballot is critically important. It's very important to provide feedback to the students and to help us identify the winner or the loser, but ultimately a single decision is not going to make everything or break everything for the students. Okay, like I said, all 4 of those principles of judging are applicable to judging debates in pretty much any format, and judging other speech and debate events such as interpretation of literature or extemporaneous speaking. The last one deals with identifying the winner of a particular debate. And I use the metaphor of identifying the team that occupies the most space. I do want to give credit here. My former boss at the University of Alaska Anchorage, Steve Johnson, built the slides that I'm going to show next to help students and judges visualize what happens in a debate. Okay? And we can use the metaphor of identifying who occupies the most space to determine the winner. So, we can imagine a debate topic in which we have resolved the United States federal government should ban tobacco products. And then we can see a playing field that's been laid out by the topic. We have the affirmative team or the pro team on one side arguing in favor of banning tobacco products, and we have the negative or the con team on the other. That's our playing field, and it's established by the debate topic. Now, the specifics of the topic are going to be identified by the students in that round. So we can look at this through what we can call horizontal debate, where the students identify each of the main issues, and there are arguments to be made on both sides of each of those issues. So specifically, when we look at banning tobacco products, we have an issue related to public health. There are pro arguments, and there are negative arguments. The economic consequences of banning tobacco products, and then smokers' rights. Okay. Typically, the first affirmative speech and the first negative speech in the debate will identify these issues and help you to see what each of the main arguments are related to those issues. And so they lay out the framework for the debate. They identify what the debate is going to look like. Then, in the middle speeches of the round, we're going to have debate back and forth. We will have clash. We'll push back and forth on these issues. And so you might have something that looks like this, where the negative has won issue number 1, and the negative has won issue number 2 and 3. So that's the horizontal debate. And the middle speeches in a debate, like I said, are typically where this takes place. The last couple speeches in a debate are primarily concerned with vertical debate. And this is where you start comparing the issues against one another to identify which arguments are more important than the others. And so you can see here in this graph, or this chart, that issue number 2 has become the most significant issue. It's the most important issue. And by placement of the arrows, it looks like it was probably the pro team that did the work to make that the most significant issue in the debate. What I think is important for us to think about is that there's a misconception amongst many people who judge debates to think that whoever wins the most number of issues is going to win the debate. Whoever wins the most points will win the debate. And that is absolutely untrue. You can win an awful lot of things that are unimportant. What really matters is whether or not you win the important arguments. And so at the end of the debate, and when we look back at the topic, we can see that the debate may look something like this. We had the debate topic on banning tobacco products. We had 3 issues of public health, economic consequences, and smokers' rights. A quick glance at this graph says, well, clearly the negative won 2 arguments, the economic consequences and the rights issue. The affirmative only won 1 issue, but that doesn't mean that the negative necessarily won. Why? Because in this particular debate, the affirmative demonstrated that public health was the most significant issue. They had some interesting responses to the economic consequences. They had some interesting answers to the smokers' rights arguments. They lost each of those issues, however, but they won the most important one, and that's the public health argument. So you as a judge then are going to look at the debate and think about what were the different issues that were significant, why did they become significant, which team made them significant, how did the debaters identify which issues were most significant, and then you can visualize who is occupying the most space in the debate and identify a winner. So again, the 5 main principles of judging. You want to be an educator first, you make your decisions independently of others, you practice non-intervention, there are multiple decisions being made, so yours is not the only one that matters, and then finally, think about the debate that's transpired to identify who is winning the main issues in the debate and who is making those issues significant and which issues have they made most significant in the debate. If you do those things, you'll be well placed to be an effective judge for our students and to provide meaningful feedback to the students as well.